A long time ago, among Lakota people, there was this couple. They lived in a camp with Teoshpae, and the man was kind of a selfish guy. He was not much of a warrior. He would not participate in buffalo hunts. He would not do things with other warriors. But in the Teoshpae, people do things for everybody. So other warriors would bring food for everybody. So he felt he didn't have to go hunting. So he stayed home a lot and was a lazy guy. It's something to consider is that in the ancient world, the teepees belonged to the women. They were the law inside of the teepee. So whatever she says, that goes. But she lives in a way where you want to be in her teepee because there's love there, there's acceptance, and you feel welcomed and wanted like you are an important person. So most of the times, teepees were nice places. Except for this one. The fact that this man liked to stay in the teepee, it shows that he was disrespecting his wife, that most likely he was dominant, he was abusive and controlling. Well, one day he did go out, and he was gone for a few days. And people thought, well, maybe he's hunting for once. Well, a few days passed by, and he came home, but he was with another woman. He came inside the teepee, said to his wife, "This is now your sister wife." They weren't really sisters, but he used that term. He said that now she's going to be my second wife and she will live here too. Well, the first wife, she was really upset. And she ran out. This was her teepee, but it was obvious that she wasn't going to get anywhere with this guy. And she felt a little bit embarrassed to go to the tribal council to have them do something about it because this man might retaliate against her somehow, and she was all mixed up. She had a lot of emotions running very strong, and therefore she couldn't think clearly. All she knew is that she wanted to get away from there as far as possible and as fast as possible. So she ran and ran and ran. Unfortunately, it was close to winter time. It was in the late fall. And she ran until she could run no more. And she fell to the ground and she said, "I'm ready to die. I have nothing to live for." And so she just laid there and let the snow cover her as it was coming down. Then a storm came, and she thought, "Oh, great. How can this get any worse?" And so she fell asleep and was probably expecting not to wake up. Several hours had gone by, and suddenly she felt something warm on her face. And then she realized it's either a dog or some animal that's licking her face. So she thought, "Oh, great. Now an animal is going to eat me. How can my life get any worse?" But this animal just sat there. And then she realized it was a wolf. And he was just sitting there, looking at her. But for some reason, she didn't feel any fear. And then she smelled raw meat. She looked in front of her, and there was a fresh killed rabbit. And then she realized the wolf was offering her some meat to eat. And she started to eat it. And the wolf just sat there. He seemed to be friendly. And she said, "Lila wopila tranka." She said to him, "Thank you very much." He put his head down as if to understand. Then he got up and turned around and walked a few steps, and he looked back. And he seemed to motion somehow with his body for her to follow him. He walked a little bit further. He did it again. And the third time he did this, that's when the woman noticed that. And then she stood up. He walked a few steps, looked back again. This was the fourth time. So she started walking behind him. She started to follow him. In the Lakota way, we have a custom called 4 times. And this is a concept where when you do something special or do something that has a special meaning or a special purpose, you do it 4 times, like what this wolf just did. And if you're paying attention, you see that it's the 4 times concept. So she waited until he did it the 4th time. So when he went little bit steps more and looked back the 4th time, then she knew for sure he wanted her to follow him. So she did. So he took her back to the den that his group lived in. And at first, the wolves were all getting into the ruckus because they could smell her as she's coming close. But when they saw this wolf in front of her, they didn't want to do anything. And then it became apparent to her that this wolf was the leader of the pack. So he went inside, and she did too. She was following him. She went inside the den, saw all these wolves. They were all looking, but they didn't want to do anything because the leader was leading her. And he led her to a place and kind of motioned for her to sit there. So she did. And then he was looking at everybody, and they were like making whatever noise they make, like they're communicating. He's saying something to them with body language, breathing. And they understood that she's going to stay here. So she was really scared because all these wolves, she was in the middle of all these wolves. And in Lakota stories, we have stories of wolves that are not too good. And it's because of there's a different way of thinking. And so Lakota people, we identify with the buffalo. And the buffalo created this family system that we call Tioshpaye. And in this system, you have no one leader. It's always led by a council. And let me explain it really quick what a Tioshpaye is so you know. I'll use myself as an example. My mother and her sisters, those are all my mothers. They're all equally important to me. Their husbands, or their men, those are all my fathers. And the children of all those marriages or unions, those are my brothers and sisters. Now, my mother's brothers, those are my uncles. And their partners are my aunts. And their children are my cousins. That's my mother's side. On my father's side, my father and his brothers are all my fathers, and they're all equally important. Their partners are my other mothers. And the children from these unions are my other brothers and sisters. My father's sisters are my aunts, and their partners are my other uncles. And all their children are my other cousins. This is a Tioshpae. So you have a lot of mothers and a lot of fathers, and they're all important. And they all take a part in raising you. So the community raises the children is basically what's happening. This is just a simple explanation of what a Tioshpae is. I have other videos about it. There's one video that I just did called The Buffalo Way is the Lakota Way. And you can learn more about what a Tioshpae is. Well, the wolf way is different. But it does not mean it's bad. The wolf way works for the wolves, and the buffalo way works for the buffalo. And we have old Lakota Star Knowledge stories that explain how humans and buffaloes evolve from the same creature called Pte. So this is why the Tioshpae is the same for buffalo and for Lakota people. But the wolf way is a different way. They have a one leader concept, and there's a reason for that. It doesn't make them bad. It's just that when Lakota people and buffalo people start trying to act like the wolf people, then things go wrong for the buffalo people and the Lakota people. Vice versa. If the wolf people start acting like the buffalo people, then things go wrong for the wolf people. So what works for the group is what they use. So the wolf perspective is different. They have a one leader concept, but they need that to exist. This is what works for them. And so this is why all the wolves in this wolf den did not do anything against this Lakota woman that is now living with them. After a time had gone by, they start getting used to her. And she was really observing them. And she learned how to communicate with them. So she was learning their language, which includes body language, which includes a certain way of looking and certain sounds. She learned this over time. And the little wolf pups, they would all come to her, and the female wolves, they all accepted her as a sister. And she really fit in. They accepted her. And she accepted them. So she lived with them for the whole winter. This was her new family. Well, back in the Lakota camp, they grew worried. This man was thrown out of the camp. He was banished because he disrespected the law of the teepee. This is the woman's law, and he disrespected that. In Lakota ancient society, we did not have polygamy. Some books written by non-native anthropologists will say that, like they'll say Sitting Bull had 6 wives and so forth. But they don't understand what that really is. It's not polygamy, and I'll explain this right now. In the Lakota world, in the ancient times, it's really hard to live because you're living with the nature. You're living with the elements. But it's also good too because you know things. You know how everything is connected, and this influences you to be more respectful of everything in the nature and to each other, even to others you disagree with. This is why in Lakota they say you even respect your enemy. Now, today people don't understand that, but that was an ancient rule. Because one day your enemy may need your help, or you may need his help. Your enemy is a provider for his family or her family. So you respect them no matter what. Even if you disagree, that's okay. You can agree to disagree and still have peace. This is respect. In the old days, when a couple gets really old, many times it was the husband who died first, for whatever reason. And so his wife would be living alone. She's old and she's living alone. And maybe because of her physical health, because of old age, it's kind of hard for her to manage her teepee. So her sister may talk to her husband, if he's still alive, and will say, "My sister is really having a hard time. Can we help her?" So if this is a healthy marriage, he will say, "Let's go talk to her." So they will go talk to the sister and they'll say, "How are you doing? Would you like to live with us? And we can all help each other." And they would think about it, and she would say, "Okay." She doesn't have to. She can say no, but many times she said okay. So then they would go before the tribal council and they would explain their case. And usually everybody already knows anyway. They kind of expect this to happen too. So it's announced that these three people are not going to live in the same teepee. They need each other. They're going to help each other. It has nothing to do with romance. It has nothing to do with sex. It's about unconditional familial love. This is what it's about. So these three will be living with each other. But they never said, "Oh, this is my second wife." They never talk like that in the old days. They were just living together to help each other and not be alone and not be lonely. This is how that worked. Now, when the anthropologists came and they saw this, they would say, "Oh, look at that old man. He has 3 wives. My God." And they didn't even go in and ask questions. They just judged us by observation. So this was not polygamy. This is something else. And only old people could do this. So if a young man tries to do this, you know it's not a good thing. You know it's for sex. And this is going to upset the whole Tioshpaye. And a Tioshpaye is a community thinking perspective. And you can't have this existing to upset the whole community. So it was really, really a big no-no for a younger man to take a second wife. This was disgusting because you know it's not about unconditional love. This is about sex. So this is the reason why this husband was taken out by a warrior society and told to never come back, and that other Lakota camps will soon know, because Lakota camps kept in communication with each other. They had a runner that would run from one camp to the next and then tell the news of what just happened. So they knew if this guy comes into their camp, get him out of there because he's a troublemaker. He's a lazy. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't contribute. He's not a community thinker. So This is what happened to this man. And the woman, she went back to her people. She didn't realize that this man already had a woman. So they got rid of the husband. But the people were quite concerned. They felt that maybe his wife froze to death. Maybe the wolves ate her up. They never found the body. They never found bones. And they thought, well, maybe wolves ate her up, tore her body to pieces, and they took her to some cave and whatever. So they pretty much accepted the fact that she was dead. And her family was very, very sad. And were really having a difficult time, especially her mother. She was really having a difficult time with this. Then one day there were some warriors that were going out hunting. It was summertime now. So maybe about 6 or 7 months had passed, maybe 8 months. They were out hunting. And they saw some wolves. And then they heard a woman singing. So they were like, what's going on here? This is strange. And they went looking for the source. And off in the distance, they could see a woman with the wolves. At first, they thought the wolves were going to attack her. But then they realized that they weren't. And they thought, maybe this is a crazy woman. Because in those days, to be out by yourself, completely away from people, was very dangerous because you never know when enemy tribes are in the area. You never know when you're being tracked by wolves. You never know when you're being tracked by other wild animals. And so to see a woman out there by herself, they thought, maybe she's crazy. Then some thought, maybe she's sacred. They don't know what to do, so they better return back to the camp and talk with the holy people and let them think about it and decide what should be done. So they went back, and the holy man went up to the hill and started speaking in the sacred Lakota. The sacred Lakota is a little bit different than the normal Lakota language that some of us know today. Holy people speak the sacred Lakota language, and plants and animals can understand it. And so can the earth, the clouds, water, all nature can understand this language. So he sang a song, and he started to say a prayer. Then an old wolf showed up. And the holy man and the wolf were sitting there on the hill. The sun was just going over, but the sky is still red on the western horizon. This is a sacred time. And same thing when it's dawn and the sun has not come up yet, but the eastern horizon is red, that's another sacred time. So it was during this sacred time, these two were talking to each other in the sacred Lakota language. The holy man said, our warriors saw a woman with some wolves. Do you know who that is? This old wolf said, yes, she's living with us. We don't know her name, but we call her a different name in the wolf language. And so the holy man said, this lady is a relative of ours, and her mother misses her. Everybody thinks she was killed by wolves or other wild animals, and maybe she was eaten up. A very bad thing happened to her, that's why she ran away. He told the wolf the whole story of her ex-husband. And so the wolf understood. Now we know why. There's something different about her. that the leader did not attempt to attack her when he met her. So they visited through the night, and the old wolf told the holy man everything that happened since she was with them. That she had learned the language, she has a name among them, that the wolves love her, and that she's happy. And the old wolf said, but I'm going to talk with her, and I will tell her that maybe she should come see her mother, come see her family. Because she's not a wolf. She is Lakota. And let's see what happens. He said, I will try my best. By this time, it's dawn. They were talking through the whole night about everything that happened. The sun is getting ready to come over the eastern horizon. You can see the red in the sky. Now it's the other holy time, the sacred time. So the holy man says a prayer, and then he sings a song, and the old wolf joins him. They sing together. And at the end they say, Oh Hetchatuelo. That's the way it is. So the old holy man goes back to the Lakota camp, and the old wolf goes back to the wolf den. So the old wolf has a talk with the leader and explains the situation. The leader thinks, yes, this is the way it should be. So the leader and the old wolf, they meet with the Lakota woman. At first, the woman gets a little bit upset because she doesn't want to go. She's happy with them. And then the old wolf says, look at these little pups. Look at how they come to you. They love you because you're like a mother to them. And she says, I know. I feel like they're my children too. The old wolf said, this love that you feel, imagine if all these wolf pups die right now. What would you feel? She said, my heart would be broken. The old wolf said, this is the way your mother is feeling right now. So the woman, she said, okay, I will go. I don't want to, but I will go. She started to remember her mother. The wolf was asking her, do you remember how it was when you were a little girl? And she started remembering her experiences with her mother when she was a little girl. And then she started to think more and more. And then she started to cry. And she started to agree that she will go back. So the old wolf says, I will take you to a hill, and the holy man from your camp will be there, and he will take you the rest of the way. She says, okay. So she packs some things to make the journey, and the wolf people are very sad. They start to cry. They're going to travel in the night. They start to cry. And you can hear them in the distance as she walks further and further away. They're crying for her. And she's crying too. But she's remembering her mom. The wolf keeps telling her about her mother. So she continues with the old wolf. They get to the hill. There's the holy man waiting. The holy man is really happy to see her, but he knows her heart is broken too because she left the wolves, her other family. And the old holy man tells the old wolf, she will be looked after, she will be loved, she will be taken care of, and we thank you. We thank you for saving her and giving her a reason to live. We thank you. Ohechetuelo, they said to each other in the sacred language. Now, she was astonished because she never heard this wolf speaking the sacred Lakota language, so she was really surprised. This is the first time she heard that language. So the holy man took her back to her people. Now it's morning time, and the people were really happy, especially her mother. She ran over and threw her arms around her. She was so happy she's still alive. And it was really hard for this woman to be among humans. She was with the wolves for almost a year. But she was happy to see her mother, all her mothers, all her sisters, all her brothers, all her fathers. She was so happy to see them. They talked throughout the day. She was telling stories of what happened since she disappeared. And at first they cried because of what her ex-husband had done. They were amazed about when she told them a wolf woke her up and gave her some meat and took her back to his people. They were really in amazement. They were like, wow, that is really something. So they go to bed that night and she falls asleep. She's kind of worried about what her future is going to be, but she manages to fall asleep. And in the middle of the night, her family is awakened by sounds. At first they thought there's a wolf nearby. And then they realize it's this woman. She's making these noises in her sleep. They think, wow, this is really interesting, what's happening here. And they become a little bit troubled, but they still manage to go back to sleep. The next morning, they wake up, they do some things, they eat something, and they ask her, how was it for her? She said, it's okay, I slept good. And they don't say anything about the noises she was making, but they're a little bit concerned. And they ask more, how was it living with the wolves? And so she tells them more in depth about her experiences with them, and that she learned the language, and that how daily life was among the wolves. And the more she's talking about it, the more she starts to feel she wants to go back. The more she talks about it, she remembers her wolf sisters, the pups, and her emotions get strong about this. Then came the night. Everybody was getting ready to go to bed. The guards were standing up on the hill. They're watching for enemies if they try to come in and invade the camp. So she was observing where the scouts were standing, the guards. And she went into her mother's teepee. She went to bed. She laid there until she was sure everyone was asleep. Then she sneaked out of the teepee. She remembered where the guards were, the scouts. The guards have no idea. The scouts who are watching the camp, they have no idea she went through. And then she ran back as fast as she could to where the wolves were. And she arrived, and of course they were happy to see her. But the old wolf was concerned. He knew there was a problem. So the old wolf went to the hill where he met the old Lakota holy man. And the old Lakota holy man was there. This is the next evening. And they're talking again. The holy man said her mother and family, they were so happy to see her, but the next morning they woke up and she was gone and they're confused. She's with her family, but it seems like she doesn't want to be with her family. They're confused because there's happiness, but she ran away. The old wolf said, "Yes, I'm very concerned too. And our leader is very concerned too. We will bring her in the morning. And I will talk to her some more." So they pray, they sing a song, and they say, "Oh, hetchetuelo," to each other. That's the way it is. So the old wolf goes back to his people, and they have a talk, and they are saying it's very important that she be with her people, that she's just going through a transition, that of course it's difficult. She just came from the wolf people. It's a different perspective. But she's Lakota, and the Lakota have their perspective. And so she should return and have some patience to make that transition back to being Lakota. So she agrees. But she's just saying this to not argue. So they take her back. And of course the people are still happy. They know it's hard for her. And they understand. So they don't get angry at her. They take her back with open arms. Well, she comes back and they have a good day. And then when they go to bed, they go to sleep, she does it again. She takes off. But this time, there's more guards out, and now they're watching for her. So they're able to capture her. She fights them very hard. She's actually screaming for the wolves in the wolves' language to come and help rescue her. But they don't. But you can hear them in the distance. They're crying. They don't come to rescue her. So the guards take her back. And this time the family doesn't know what to do. She doesn't want to speak Lakota. She keeps making sounds of the wolves. And so they decide they have no choice but to tie her down. And hopefully this urge to be with the wolves will go away. So during the day, they tie her to a pole that is put deep in the ground so she cannot escape, but she can still walk around. The women take her someplace where she can use the bathroom, but they tie themselves to her so she won't run away. She's not speaking anymore, and the family is starting to get sad. It's hard to eat on this day. It's hard to do anything. They don't know what to do about this woman. So several days go by, and it seems like she's only getting what they think is worse. She's making growling noises. She doesn't want to eat. And so the mother starts to cry. It looks like this girl is starving herself, that she would rather be dead than to be living with her Lakota relatives. So after a time, the woman is getting very weak because she's not eating, she's not drinking anything. And they can tell that she's tried to bite through the leather that she was tied down with, but she was so weak she couldn't get through. So the holy man goes up to the hill where he always meets with the old wolf, and the old wolf is there. And the Lakota holy man was explaining what had happened so far. And they talk through the night, thinking what can be done. Then the holy man says, her people are her home, but your people are her home more recently. Why does she have to make a choice to only be with one and to stay there forever? The old wolf says, yeah. And then the old wolf continues the thought, why don't we ask her? Maybe she can be home in both places when she feels like it. But she should be aware that both families are important. Not just one, but both are important. Maybe she can live with us, but that she visit her Lakota people often. And then she can live there for a while. And the holy man said, and then she can go back to your people, the wolf people. She can do what she wants. The important thing is that she lives, that she learns, so that she can love. Ho heche tu elo, they both say together. Then they go back to their camps, to their people. By that time, it's morning time. So the holy man talks with the family, and he tells them he was speaking with the old wolf from the wolf people that the woman comes from. And they have this idea that the number one thing should be her happiness. And the holy man explains the whole discussion that he had with the old wolf. At the same time, the old wolf had the same discussion with the wolf people. And both peoples, the Lakota people and the wolf people, were saying, that's a good idea. So the old wolf told the wolf people that the Lakota holy man is going to explain it to the woman with her mother, and that they will start this new agreement. So the wolves are feeling good. They're feeling happy. So now the Lakota holy man is talking to the parents of this girl, explaining everything, how it can be. That we have to look at it from her perspective. Look at what happened to her. And we have to make the best of this situation for her so that she can feel more to be a part of everything. She belongs to both people now. She is a bridge to both people. This is a very sacred thing. In Lakota, you have at least 3 perspectives to everything. There's this way, there's that way, and there's the other way. And sometimes there might even be a 4th way and more. But there's always going to be at least 3. This woman is representing that 3rd option. This is a sacred thing. And the people are like, wow, that's beautiful. So they talk to the girl. She doesn't want to listen. But by this time, the old holy man, you see, one of the reasons why he was meeting with this old wolf was because they were learning each other's language. So the holy man began to speak the wolf language and talk to this girl. She sat up. And he said to her, "Granddaughter, eat something, drink something. The wolf people want you to live." And she started to cry. "Okay," she whispered. So he gave her something to eat. The mother came, gave her something to drink. And he began to explain in the wolf language this plant. And she opened her eyes. She started to cry. She realized she can be with both. She can live with the wolf people as long as she wants, as long as she comes to see her Lakota people. And she can stay with them for a little while and then go back to the wolves. She can do this as she pleases. She was really happy. And the family, even though they were a little bit sad, they were happy to see her happy. They were happy to see her smile, and that they realized, okay, she's going to be gone for a while, but she's also going to be coming back. We will know she's always coming back. And the wolf people were saying the same thing too. She was happy. So they had an honoring ceremony and they gave her a new name. And then she turned to her mom and her father and her other moms and other fathers. And she said she loves all of them. And she will be back. She will be back for the ceremonies, the sun dance, other important Lakota customs that happen at certain times of the year. She said she will be back for that, but she will be back for other things too. And if you need me, she told them to put a certain item in a certain tree on a certain hill, because the wolves travel through that area, and if they see that, they will tell her, and then she will know if it's an emergency, for example. And of course, the old wolf and the holy man would always be in contact too. So she was able to start to live. And so they had a feast for her, and they had a little send-off, but they knew this is a good thing, this is gonna work. And they knew this is a sacred thing because she's making a bridge between the buffalo perspective and the wolf perspective. This is a sacred bridge. And for that, they were happy. This is a holy woman now. So, the holy man and her parents, they took this lady to this hill, and there they saw a little bit of wolves coming too. They saw the old wolf, they saw the leader of the pack, they saw some of her sisters and some wolf pups. It wasn't the whole pack, it's just a small group too. And then they stopped at a small distance to each other. And then the Lakota woman went to the wolves, and her relatives saw how they welcomed her. The pups were just happy to see her. And the sisters, her wolf sisters, they all came around her. The leader of the pack went out a few steps, nodded his head at them. "Thank you." And the leader of the Lakota group went out there, nodded his head back. It was an amazing sight to see. She turned around, told her relatives in Lakota, Doksha echani akewa chiankinkte. I will see you again soon. And this is how it was. She would go back to the Lakota people for a time. Sometimes it was a short visit, sometimes it was a long visit. And she always went back to the wolf people. Ohechetuelo mitakuyapi. My relatives. This is the truth.
To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota spirituality videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking on that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link, and there you will see the information to get this book. Lila Pilamayelo. Thank you very much.